Hi, my name is Roger Lockwood, and I'd like to share my story with you. It's not an easy story to share. There's something within me that feels like I need to share this. I grew up in the 60s and 70s in Michigan and grew up in a rural farm community. My dad was a tractor mechanic for many, many years, and was not easy growing up in my family. My father was very stern. My father didn't give out hugs or kisses, or didn't talk much about love. And growing up in school, I kind of had a hard time fitting in with others, and early on I started using drugs and alcohol right out of junior high into high school. Started hanging around people that were using drugs and alcohol in the 70s, and that went on for my life for another 15 years or so. I was in and out of institutions and jails, and became a real problem for me. I hid from everybody. I just worked, and I wouldn't go on vacations with my family. I wouldn't go to my daughter's sports games that she has, or any of the activities that my son was involved in. I wouldn't go to any of those. My kids would want me to spend time with them, and I put them on the back burner. It seemed like it was always about me. I was so self-centered, and usually out running around with the guys. My wife, I would very seldom do things with her. Seemed like my wife and I just coexisted in our relationship. I did what I wanted to do, and she basically was at home raising the family, taking care of the family life. Well, I was out kind of being selfish and doing my thing. My life became unmanageable, and the drugs and alcohol weren't even working anymore for me. And I got to a real dark spot, was thinking about ending my life. I had no respect for anybody around me, and I didn't have any respect for myself. And I truly hit bottom.
Hi, I'm Cindy Lockwood, and I'm married to Roger Lockwood. We've been coming to Mountain Ridge for about 2 years now, and it was January 2011. We had something happen in our lives. We had been having a lot of problems for several years. Roger had been spiraling down with drugs and alcohol, which he had had issue with that early on in our marriage. We've been married almost 30 years now, and we actually separated early on in our marriage because of these issues with the drugs and alcohol. And he got help, got involved in a 12-step program back then, and got cleaned up. But then he had another addiction. We started a business, and he worked many hours a day. Is pretty much a workaholic. So he kind of traded one addiction for another, and that went on for quite a few years. So during that time, there was not really a relationship with Roger or with him with the kids. He really wasn't involved. And he had a major anger problem. Just minor things, would set him off. So, I learned to adjust my behavior by how he reacted. So, there wasn't a lot of communication. We lived together, but kind of really just coexisted. We led separate lives. And then several years ago, he got back into the drugs and alcohol. And it gradually got worse, and it got to the point where I couldn't deal with it anymore, didn't want it in my life. And, we had discussed it, and he knew, and talked about getting help and making changes, but it just kept getting worse. And, I had prayed about it, and, I love him. And I didn't want to, go my separate way. I was more concerned with what would happen to him. And but I finally came to peace with what I needed to do. And that next morning, when he got off of work, I was going to, sit down and tell him, we need to go our separate ways, because it was, it finally, something told me that you need to move on, that you have a life that, you need to live as well, and that it's, you can't do this for him. But before I had a chance to discuss that with him, he came in middle of the afternoon and was shaking uncontrollably, sobbing, crying. It was like emotions from years and years that just came pouring out. And I knew something amazing was taking place.
And something happened in the 1st of January of 2011. And I started crying one morning. I'd already been using drugs and alcohol that day. And something happened. And I started crying, and I started shaking, and I couldn't control myself. I have never felt how I'd felt before. And it was just uncontrollable for me. It went on all day. I'll never forget that day. It's like it happened yesterday. And I sought out a 12-step program within a couple days. And I got into a 12-step program, and it was not easy. I was detoxing for a few weeks off of drugs and alcohol. And there was something inside of me that kept me going back to AA, about a higher power, about God, about surrendering to God. I kept hearing this in the meetings that I was going to. And we knew some friends that we'd known for a long time that were Christians. And we sought them out. And I told my wife, I says, I'd like to go to church. And these people went to Mountain Ridge, and we met with them, and they invited us to come. So we started going to Mountain Ridge in the early part of 2011. I think it was February, about the end of February, and I was scared to death. I had so much fear inside of me when I walked into that church, and there was something inside of me that kept saying to me, and I'll never forget it, it'll be okay. It was a kind of a changing point in my life. It was a lot of the pain from inside from all the years, and it was something that I'll never forget. And we kept coming back. We heard in the first few sermons about how important prayer was, about how much we should pray. And you know what? I was at the point in my life, hitting maybe a bottom. I was willing to try to pray. And I started praying. And I started feeling better. And I started to try to have a relationship with God. And I tell you what, we kept coming back. I couldn't get enough of it. I started praying, and I couldn't get enough of it. And something inside just started feeling a little bit better. And we eventually got into a small group and started learning. The first series we had was the fruit of the Spirit. And it's so amazing to me today, looking back on that just a few months ago. That's just what God had in store for me right in the very beginning. Because I haven't known how to love myself or to love others for a long time. And I started feeling inside so much better about myself and about my family, about my son and daughter and wife. My wife and I started talking, and I mean talking like we never have before. And we kept coming back to the services at Mountain Ridge and learning more about God and things to do in the world we live in today, and how to realize that it's not us, it's all about God. It's putting Him in front and for us to sit in the back of the bus and let God do the driving. That's the way I look at it. I know one thing for sure, God's doing for me today what I couldn't do for myself. That's more clear to me today. And I have so much gratitude inside of me today. And that's why I wanted to share this story with all of you. Because I know one thing for sure. I have lied and cheated and put people down and judged and put expectations on people. And I know one thing for sure today is the truth will set you free. Because once I decided to become truthful with myself and accept God into my heart, my life has changed.
I'm Brittany. I'm Roger's daughter and Cindy's daughter. And I'm here to talk about the change in my dad since he found God. And growing up, I didn't really have a relationship with him, nor did my brother or my mom. And it was hard because even though he was here, he really wasn't, because I couldn't come to him for advice. I couldn't really talk to him because you never really knew what kind of reaction you would get from him. So it was almost better just to not say anything. But since he started going to church, I really have seen a 180 in him. You know, now I can talk to him, I can ask him for advice, come to him about anything, just like I could with my mother my whole entire life. And it really feels good to have both of my parents there and both of them supporting me. And I really couldn't ask for anything more out of either of them. And, you know, the changes in my dad are almost indescribable, because it's almost like a brand new person. You know, somebody who's selfless and willing just to take 5 minutes to go with you to coffee, or, you know, take the time out of his day just to talk to you about anything, whether it be problems you're having or just because you want to talk. And I really have seen him not only help, you know, me and my brother and my mom, but other people. And that's what I think is one of the amazing things, is that he's able to see other people in the position that he has been in and help those people. And that to me is a great thing.
Today, our marriage is something that I've always wanted, and I finally have today. We've never had a relationship. In the last 2 years, it's, you know, we've got a relationship where we actually communicate, and he puts me first. You know, it's not all about him. And I'd have to say one of the most amazing things that day, January 2011, when he came in, the house shaking and crying, from that day forward, his anger has been lifted. It is gone. And I know that that's only got to be, you know, coming from God. I had our friends that invited us to come to Mountain Ridge that day when Roger came in. She told me, you know, Cindy, until you finally gave up trying to fix the situation and you finally just, you know, let it go and got out of the way, that's when God was able to step in and help. And, you know, I can't tell the story enough. We've helped, you know, tried to reach out to friends and family that we see, you know, in our same situation or that are struggling, because for me, you just can't deny, you know, what you've been through and what you've seen, and you know, there's no explanation other than God. So you know, it's just it's powerful for me, and it's been powerful for our family, and just thank God every day.
And it just amazes me that things that have happened to me just here in the last few months of my life. And that's why I say again, it's so important for me to share this with all of you, because I love each and every one of you. That's how important it is to me to share this. Thank you.